Hey, 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 yeah, hey, what a time to be alive. I left them for dead, now I'm living right. No new friends, no new advice. That was high then, but we got bigger heights. We got bigger fish to fry. Bet on myself, then I roll the dice. Man, it ain't a gamble if you know you nice.
All right, welcome back to Dollar Dream Podcast. I'm your host, Ara Amen. This is the #1 podcast in Dallas, and today my guest is Carly Camargo. She is the CEO and founder of the Magnetic Queen, also seen on Instagram, making sure that women and men get into healthy relationships.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I kind of want to start with the beginning. Where were you born? What was family like? Go into that.
Okay, so I was born in Brawley, California. It's a very small town on the border of California and Mexico. It's maybe like, I don't know, 18,000 people. It's kind of like a small town in Texas type of vibe like that. And I would say that my childhood was very chaotic. There was cops every other day at my house because there was a lot of domestic violence. My dad was very abusive to my mom. And pretty much, like, I think when I was, God, how old was I? Like 14, my dad went to prison, and my mom didn't know how to live life without him. So she became very depressed, and then she got checked into a mental hospital. And then after that, my younger brother and I were forced to move into another family member's home.
How many siblings do you have?
I have two. So I have an older brother. He was 18 at the time, so they were kind of like, figure it out. And then my younger brother, he was like 6 years old or something like that. So we moved into another family's home, and it was my uncle, and he was a cop. So throughout high school, oh my God, like, life was so fucking strict. Like, this is before we had like, could share locations and stuff. I had a tracker on my phone. I would have to like leave my phone at my friend's house so I could go out and have fun, like go to a party. And it was many times where I got breathalyzed. Like, I was a straight A student. I was in sports. I was in ASB. Like, I was like the golden child. But one thing was, I loved to have fun. Like, I loved to party, and that was just one thing that they did not like. So I got breathalyzed. I had to walk the line so many times. I had to follow the finger, and got in trouble a lot.
So your uncle, the house you moved into, he was a cop, so he's doing all these cop procedures on you.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. And you're in high school at this time?
Yeah.
So your high school years is when you moved into this second family?
Yeah.
So what was that departure like? Was that difficult for you and your brother? Going into high school especially is difficult. So what was that like, leaving your mom and dad and going into a new family, also going into high school?
Mm-hmm. At the time, I was a child, so I didn't know how to process it. But when I look back at it, I'm like, holy fuck, like, poor baby me.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have my mom. I didn't have my dad. I was completely abandoned and left without my parents. And I was kind of forced to create a new life with somebody else. And I'm very grateful that they took us in, because I'm super blessed, because I don't know where I would be. But it's still like, there's a huge abandonment wound when your parents actually are no longer there and leave you. And so now I look back and I'm like, holy fuck. Like, that was actually very chaotic. But at the time, it was like, okay, this is just the next thing to do.
What was do you still have contact with your mom and dad now?
Yeah.
Is things gotten better?
Yeah, for sure. My dad changed his life like 180. My best friend.
Cool. What was Carly like in high school? She likes to party.
Very shy, actually.
Oh, shy.
I was very shy. I was really good in school, but I had maybe like a friend group of 3 people. I wasn't the type of person that I am now. Now I'm very loud, outgoing, out there. I'm wild. I can freely be myself. Back in the day, I was really shy. I was very conservative. I was going to church every Sunday. I was like very holy and pure, and like, I'm going to be a virgin till marriage type vibe. I was just like the quiet, good girl, I would say.
Okay. And when did you have your first serious relationship? Was it in high school?
I had No, college.
College.
Yeah.
So all throughout high school, you're not with anyone?
No.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I was so like church girl that boys weren't even on my radar at the time.
What was it, a positive experience when you were the church girl? Like, because, you know, people usually have bad, I don't want to say usually, but people sometimes have bad experiences growing up religious. Some people have good experiences. Was your experience good growing up religious?
I would say it's fairly good. It was fairly good, but also very naive.
Okay. So when did you slowly start going away from religion? Was that the same time when you started getting into relationships? Or having fun, I should say?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say so. Once I went to college, I moved to LA. I was going to university over there, and that's where it was like freedom. And that's when I went super wild, where I'm partying 4 nights a week, where I had the confidence within myself to like speak up, just talk louder, voice my opinions.
What are you speaking up on? What was being bottled in that you had the freedom to express to be yourself now?
I would say just more of like my wild woman self.
Okay.
Because before I was taught to be a quiet, shy, perfect little girl who does nothing wrong. And so there was a part of me that just wanted to rebel and like do something fun or do something crazy for once, because I had never really experienced that before.
Okay. How did you get into the partying lifestyle, the wild girl? How did that transition go?
I think we all kind of have that phase
100%,
in college,
100%,
right?
100%. And it's the way you tell your story reminds me a lot of my upbringing, because I was also like a good student, right? I always was, you know, I could do things well, but I also like to have fun. And it was kind of like, we can take this, we're okay with this, but we need to clean this up right here. But I was like, the balance is what I liked, because it's like work hard, play hard. So I'm a big proponent in that growing up, and even still now, right? But you know, sometimes it's hard for people to understand that, especially when you're younger. So what kind of, was it your friends? Was it meeting new people at the university? Was it moving to a new city? Was it a guy? Was it a girl? How did you get into that? Was it trying to impress your friends? Because for myself, it was, I wanted to impress people. I wanted to be accepted. So that was, I wanted to do things to get accepted, to be, you know, part of the cool kids, right? So what was that like for you?
Good question. I think it was just more of, there's always been this part of me, like this very outgoing part of me that was just suppressed and hidden away, thrown inside of a closet and never came out. So when I did have my freedom and everybody's out there like having fun in college too, it was like, oh, okay, like I can show this side of myself here, and it's accepted and it's appreciated. So I was always like life of the party. Carly's here, like on the life of the party. I'm going to turn things up and I'm going to make sure that everybody has a good time. And I did that, but I kind of did that to the extreme, to where after a couple years doing that, it's like it started to create this empty feeling inside of me.
I got you. That makes total sense, in regards to being suppressed and then having to, you know, kind of go crazy, because it was like that. And I have some friends that are like that. Going back to, what was it like when you had your first relationship? How did y'all meet?
So my first relationship, we met at school in college, and he played on the basketball team in college. I was really attracted to him. We started to date. We dated maybe for about like 8 months, and that was my first love. Like, I feel like when we have our first love, everything feels very easy. Everything feels very pure, and you could fully give yourself because you know nothing different. But we broke up because he ended up moving away to another school, and he wanted me to just live my life. He was a few years older than me and was like, I want you to enjoy your college years. So we ended up breaking up, and after the breakup was when I didn't know how to process my emotions at the time. So I went out and coped like no other, doing exactly what I knew, coping by drinking, drugs, having sex with a lot of men, not really loving myself.
And that's the period you're talking about where you went wild? Is that the period you're talking about when you went wild?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then when you started coping and feeling empty, what did you notice about yourself, and how did you realize that, and what did you change?
I didn't notice for like 2.5 years.
Really? Which that's, I think that's normal. I had similar.
Yeah. Now it's a lot quicker for me to realize, but that first time was a long time because, I mean, I'm young. I didn't really have the self-awareness at the time. I didn't really have any type of tools to take care of myself, and that's just not a thing when you're young. When you're young, you're just straight up having fun.
Yeah.
So you don't really have the tools to take care of yourself.
How old are you at this point?
When I realized, I was about 22.
Okay.
Yeah, 22.
And then what are you doing in those 2 years? This is just having fun, pure having fun.
Oh, yeah.
And you're in LA?
I'm getting blackout drunk.
And you're in LA?
4 times a week. Yep. I got a fake ID at 20 years old, 21, right before. And when I was, at this point, I started being an influencer.
Okay.
When I was 21, actually. So I started doing modeling when I was 21, and I would do hip-hop music videos. I worked with many different artists, YG, Big Sean, DJ Mustard, Ray Strummerd, and I lived like the Hollywood lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And over a couple years of doing that, it was just unfulfilling, and I started to seek a whole lot of validation from other people, and this was just kind of like another thing added on to my coping mechanisms. Was just like I was just constantly seeking validation from other people. I loved when people would be like, "Oh, Carly, like you're hanging out with this person, you're at this person's party, like that is so cool, you're living the dream life." And that shit would like really feed me. Yeah. To where I just wanted to keep doing it. I just wanted that. It's to just be a high. Like, yeah.
It's literally a drug. It's attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. So how did you get into the modeling? And so you start, like, how did that happen to where you became an influencer and you're like, I want to do this?
So this whole thing kind of goes hand in hand with how I started my coaching business. So I'm going to say like the full thing. So how I first started my first music video was, before I started doing that, I was posting like, I was the type of person that would be posting the thirst traps on the gram, like half naked body pictures. Like that's how I grew a lot of my following, because that's what a lot of people like to see. They like to see beautiful women with beautiful bodies who are showing all their stuff. So that's who I was. And I started talking to some guy that was like Ray Strummerd's DJ. And he was saying that they're having a video and if I wanted to be in it. And I'm like, hell yeah. So I go, and from that place, I didn't realize that there was already a group of like a whole like casting crew that had the same type of models come in to so many different videos. So I got plugged in with them and started doing other videos. And then from that, it was just like posting all that stuff on Instagram. It was like people start sending me free shit. People start sending me a bunch of clothes or saying, hey, can you wear this? Can you wear that? I'll pay you $500. And so I was like, damn, this is so easy. So I was doing that for about 3 years. And I also got caught up in another industry. So in the entertainment industry, a lot of the models / women are some type of sex workers, strippers, escorts, whatever it is. So eventually I became a stripper, and I was dancing for about 3 years, and just the conversations in the strip club, on set, were just so low vibrational. Everything was gossip. Everything is, what is she wearing? Everything is, oh, this dude flew me out. This blue check is in my DMs. This guy has this amount of money. And it was just a lot of meaningless conversations and a lot of people just putting on a facade and a lot of fake energy. And eventually I became that.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. And I really like the way that you put it, because there's no value there. There's no improvement. There's no leadership. There's no discipline. There's no morals, values, or principles.
100% morals down the drain.
So what's going in your mind at this point during this period, and how does this go into your business?
So after, I remember thinking to myself, what really changed my thought process was, I remember like some girl I didn't even know just passing by, and me thinking this ugly, nasty judgment of her, like, who the fuck is this girl? Like, ill, like, why does she look like that? And I was like, damn, Carly, you a year ago would have never even thought something like this. You don't know her. You don't know her story. Like, how can you judge somebody so easily off of 3 seconds? And I was like, I gotta get out of here. Like, I gotta get out of this environment, because this is not good for me. And so I had thoughts about like wanting to leave, wanting to get out of LA, but I'm living the dream life. Like, I don't have the balls to do that. I don't even have the balls to try to write out a plan to leave. And it was all I knew. Like, I'm born and raised in California. So in the midst of this, my life is just chaotic. I'm going to school, I'm playing basketball, I'm modeling, I'm stripping, and I have my cover-up job on campus where I was making smoothies. So like, my whole dancing life was a double life. And I was just like on the go all the time. At some point, I was losing hair. I had this bald spot right here on my forehead.
How come?
Stress.
Okay.
I didn't know at the time. I was just like, why am I losing hair? It didn't come to me. It's on my passport now, so I got to see it every single time.
Oh, wow.
But it's a good memory.
Yeah.
So I'm super stressed, like, and I'm thinking, I need to change. You know what? Maybe if I go back home, whenever I go back home, I feel more humbled. Maybe that'll work. So I start going back home more often. Nothing's changing. I'm like, you know what? Maybe if I start talking to my little brother more, like, he's like my son, very humbles me. And I was doing that. It's not working. Like, something needs to fucking change in my life. And at the time, I was dating this guy, and I ended up getting pregnant. And I'm like, you know, they say whenever you have a kid, it really changes your life. Well, just being pregnant, although I did have an abortion, it was enough to question everything in my life. Like, I always say, the thought about being responsible for another human being brought to the surface how irresponsible I was being towards myself.
Got you.
It was like, what even makes me happy?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? Are my friends really my friends, or do we just turn up together? Am I in college because I really want to be a math professor, or am I just following in my mom's footsteps because she's also a math teacher, or a teacher in general?
Mm-hmm.
And after that, it was like, after I had the abortion, I was going through all of these mixed emotions, to where everything in my life, all this stress, was like magnified times 100. And it was just at the surface, to where I could not think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I gotta do something. I gotta leave. And I was like, you know what, Carly? Just stop. I think all the problems will be gone once you graduate, once you start your 9 to 5. It'll all work out. Everything will unfold. And then I started visualizing for the first time. And I would visualize me getting my degree. I would visualize the president of Cal State LA giving it to me. And it hit me, and I was like, oh, I feel the same. I would feel the same. Nothing would change. My outside life would change, but I would still feel empty on the inside. And so after that, I had a trip to Dallas, and it was my first time coming here. And as soon as I got here, everything lit up inside of me, to where I was like, this is the place. I really liked the city-suburb ratio, where I could still have fun and go out in the city when I wanted to, but also be chilling in the suburbs and be at peace and a lot more quiet. So once I got here, I knew it was a place. On my flight back, I'm looking up apartments, and I'm like, this is the place. Like, I gotta move. And so 2 months later, school finishes, I drop out on my last year and I pack up my car to the rim, everything I can fit in there, and I say goodbye to my old life. And I say goodbye to all my family, friends, my dreams of being famous, and I start a new life where I did not know anybody here.
Why did you visit Dallas in the first place?
So somebody was flying me out to host some gig here.
Okay. And what about the city, other than the city suburb ratio, spoke to you?
Culture.
Well, unpack that for me, because I
just liked when the places that I had went to. I saw a lot of Hispanics, I saw a lot of minorities, and that's what I really liked.
Okay, so the diversity, okay, I got you.
It made me feel like home.
Yeah, I love Dallas, by the way. I think it's the greatest city in the world, and economically it is. For entrepreneurs, it is. It's the largest city. That's not on a river or a body of water, and it still has the most like GDP. So that's just an anomaly.
What is GDP?
Like gross domestic product. So we produce the most without being near a body of water, which is like not humanly natural. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Historically, biologically, humans have always been near like like LA, New York City, New Orleans, Seattle. Like it's all near ports. So Dallas is the city that's not, and it's also the biggest in regards to like economically.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
And it's also very aligned. Like in the United States, it's like almost dang near in the middle. So flights at any direction is like 2-3 hours.
Makes sense.
So Dallas is a very aligned city in terms of like a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I loved it when I first got here, and I love it even more now. Like, I think that as I've been here, it unfolds, and it's made my life a lot better. I feel like I have a way better quality of life than I did before in LA, because LA is pretty hectic. But once I got here, this guy that I was seeing at the time, he recommended me a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Great book.
Yes, that was the first book that I read that really opened up my mind, that changed my perspective on life. And I would practice everything in the book religiously like it was a Bible. And as I practiced these things, I started to notice I began to win every conversation that I was having with people. And people would I could be like, hey, how was your day, to a random stranger. 30 minutes later, they're into the conversation. They're like, what did you ask me again? And I was like, I just asked how your day was. They're like, what the hell? Like, I'm so sorry. I'm taking so much of your time. I'm telling you my whole life story. Like, it's just something about you. And then I come to realize, like, oh, shit, I have this gift. I have this gift of, one, like, intuitively listening. I think that listening is very easy and simple, but not a lot of people are able to do it. They're always thinking about like what they're going to say next, or their own judgments, or ways that they believe that the other person should be, what they should be doing. And so after that, I realized, okay, like, I'm really good with people. And I wanted to get into coaching. I wasn't quite sure yet, like, fully what it was at the time, because it wasn't really popular just a few years ago. And after the book, I started listening to podcasts, and then a podcast, I heard one of the guys talk about a morning routine, like 6 steps to a perfect morning routine, where you're journaling, where you're meditating, stretching, affirmations. And once I started to do that, meditation just unlocked this part of my mind and transformed my life forever, to where I was able to finally see myself for who I was, and also change my life. For the first time, like, I was able to really observe who I am, like, not just this body, but my true soul, and be able to change my life from this space of clarity, of peace, of oneness. And I was able to feel all my emotions for the first time since I was a child.
Wow.
So throughout, like, this experience, I remember days when I first got here to Texas, I'm crying, I'm lonely, I know nobody here, like, it sucks.
I was gonna ask you, I was like, what was it like to make friends when you moved here?
I moved here right before COVID. I didn't make friends for at least I don't know, 8 months.
So
6 months.
When did you said you finished your semester? So is this going into December?
Yeah. So I finished my semester in May. I didn't move till July, but I was traveling for like the next 3 months, so I didn't get here till about like, I don't know, November.
Okay, November 2019.
2019.
And then.
And I was still going back to LA sometimes. I was still going to visit my family. So I didn't really settle in till about 2020, I feel like. And once I did, it was like, okay, well, I wanted to take time to myself. And then once COVID hit, everything closed down in March. It was like I was really forced to sit with myself. And yeah, like it got very lonely. But I remember just the transition from being really sad and crying and boo-hooing in my meditations to where another day I would be meditating and I'm just like crying, but tears of joy, and I can't explain it. Or I'll be driving on my way to work and I'll just be like bawling tears and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And it's just like complete bliss. And I'm like, everybody has to feel this feeling. Like, how do I get everybody to feel this feeling? And that's when I started to get into coaching. So I went to go take a life coaching certification in Chicago, came back, saw an ad for a business coach, and ever since then I started helping women in their career and relationships, in their dating life, and just living a life of fulfillment and truly being at peace with themselves, truly knowing themselves. And then just recently I started to niche down on relationships and dating because I know what it's like to be in toxic relationships. I know what it's like to be in healthy relationships. And I know that a lot of women are suffering in toxic relationships because they don't know any different.
Unpack that for me. So why don't women, like, they don't know they're in a toxic relationship?
Yeah, a lot of women don't know they're in toxic
relationships. So define a toxic relationship. What are examples that you've been through, or what's the most common toxic relationship women are in that you're helping?
So in the most simplest way, I believe that a toxic relationship brings out the worst in you and it teaches you. A healthy relationship will bring out the best in you and will transform you. Okay. So it will bring out the worst in you, as in like you are overly obsessive or overly jealous, like the type of relationships where like you could be with your man and a girl walks by and you're like, why did you look at her like that? Like it's
no security. Yeah.
Or say the guy has a friend that's a girl in a group and is like, oh, why did you talk to her like that? Why did you smile at her like that? Or bash on men saying that they're never good enough. They always need to do something better. They always need to be more of a man. You shouldn't have gotten me red flowers when I like pink. You shouldn't have, I don't know, cleaned the dishes this way. You need to clean it that way.
Does that happen a lot where women are feeling this way?
Yes, 100%.
Do you think Dallas is a toxic city?
I think it can be. I'm very biased because I feel like if something is toxic, like you also have to be contributing that in some way.
Absolutely.
So if I'm in a toxic environment, like how am I being toxic in my life that I like that?
So if you're contributing to a toxic relationship, it takes two to tango, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is LA more toxic or Dallas? Or you your thing. Take your time.
It's toxic in different ways. And it's healthy in different ways. I think that LA can be very toxic because there's a lot of people putting on a facade.
In LA?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, sorry. I think LA can be very toxic because a lot of people are putting on a facade.
Yeah, in LA. Got you.
Because it's LA. It's like city of dreams. Everybody wants to be somebody.
Yeah. I've been to LA a few times just to visit, and it hasn't really been like a beautiful experience by any means because it was more recent. So I see a lot of homeless people and things like that. So I'm like, growing up, you always hear about it. Then you go to Venice Beach and you're like, this isn't really that cool.
No.
But it's also like,
so true.
Yeah. So and then also I see like obviously I liked watching YouTube videos and podcasts and things like that, and then you always see a lot of influencers going there to live the dream, right? to go, I'm going to go to LA and make it.
Mm-hmm.
But like is that still a thing? Is that like what it was like? But I don't understand how that could, like with the internet, anyone can do this anywhere.
For sure. I think that now these past couple years, since technology has just magically done so many amazing things for us and created so many opportunities, that it's not as much like that. But podcasts started to become popular, like in the past 2 years, like really firing up, right?
Probably. So, I've been watching it for like, it feels like 10 years now.
Oh, really?
So I've been heavy into podcasts for almost 10 years now. If you talk to any one of my friends, remember you met Josh? Josh and I've been telling Josh I'm going to start a podcast for literally the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So like.
I had no idea. Like I feel like YouTube was really high and like vlogging, and now it's like TikTok.
Yeah.
But still, when I moved to LA, it was like I would always hear about people moving to LA to chase their dreams. Like, you don't really hear people saying, like, oh, I'm going to move to Dallas to go be an actor.
That's true.
I'm going to go to Dallas to go be a singer. I'm going to go to Oklahoma to go chase my artistic
Nobody
dreams.
goes to Oklahoma anyway.
Yeah. So it's like, normally it's to LA, or say if it's fashion, it's New York. But that is one thing that I appreciate and that I had to, like, adjust to as well. Is, like, I moved to LA to chase my dreams, as well as so many other people. So, like, talent, gifts, and authenticity is very much appreciated over there. What is appreciated? What is the reason that people say they're going to move to Dallas? To buy a home, to work in some finance or IT. So it's kind of more start a business. So it can either be like a societal path, unless entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But in LA, it's more like an artistic, creative path where, like, your creative gifts are appreciated. Here, it's more like families and making six figures is appreciated.
Yeah. No, I could see that. So, what was your experience like with your first couple clients? Like, you started. Were you the best at it? Were you like, I knew exactly what to do, how to coach someone? Was the first like client had a good experience with you? Well, what was that like when you first started coaching? Was it a man or a woman?
Woman.
When you first started coaching women, what was the things you were helping them get clarity on?
Trying to remember. Okay. I'm thinking of my
if it's not the first one, then the first like few.
Okay, yeah. I'm thinking of my first client, and she came to me very unhappy in her life, overweight, not well in her relationships, didn't really know how to date at the time.
Okay.
And my style was very different in the beginning than it is now. It was more like a session with no full direction, meaning like we could have a conversation, and anything that she had would come to me about her problems. I would just sit there and in return ask open-ended questions to help her get deeper within herself, which is still what I do now. However, now I have programs. So in my programs, it's a 12-week program where there is direction, where my clients have weekly homework, where they're watching weekly video trainings by me on a certain subject or topic, so that they actually know how to like be aware of certain things in their life, versus just coming and, you know, I had this bad experience. How do I get here? How do I do this? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. So what is the like the programs? Because like, as a guy, I don't know how this works, to be completely honest with you, right? So, like, what is, like, a program that you set a woman on to help her get back on track?
Okay. So,
I don't know any of this, so, like, help me understand.
Yeah, okay. So, for example, if a woman is tired of having toxic relationships in her life, like, every time she gets out of a relationship, she just feels like she was worse off now than before.
Okay.
Right? Like, everything in her life just went to shit. And she wants to change that. So this 3-month program, I would take her through different steps. So the first step would be like getting deep into your childhood.
Got you.
And I would talk about in videos exactly how to look at your parents' dynamic, at your relationship with your father, ask the right questions so that way you can understand like what exactly it was like, because a lot of the times people are looking in a man things that they didn't get from their father.
There you go. I do agree with that. So that's a great starting point. I would agree.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what would be the or a lot of maybe women that don't have fathers, they don't know what a good example looks like.
100%.
So
yeah.
I mean that's like a big problem in just society completely today, where a lot of kids don't have that father figure, and now they're growing up kind of aimless and they don't know. I forgot, there's a statistic that talks about if a child grows up without a mom, they're still like more likely to not go to jail. But if they grow up without a dad, they can. It's more likely that they will, or something like that. But fathers play a important role in child development. So what would be the second step in regards to after childhood?
So after that would be looking at every single one of your partners and noticing all of the similarities. What are the common similarities of like the positive traits about them and the negative traits? Because if you had yourself and every other person that you've been with in a room, the person that would be the common denominator is you.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of people think that, oh no, it's him. He was a toxic one in the relationship. He was a narcissist. He's the one that cheated on me. He did this to me. But it's like, no, like there was something inside of you that allowed that actually liked that. You're not sitting here going, oh yes, I like it when he hurts me. But on an unconscious level, there's something that is still attracting you to a person like that, where that is your normal. And that's where it all comes down as well to like childhood development, where if you grew up in a very chaotic household, you will like the chaos. You won't like that peaceful person because it'll be too boring for you. You want something to rile you up. You want somebody to make you question your worth, or you want to like...
That's what you know as family.
Yes.
So if your family is, you know, abusive, or your family is not present, or if your family is, you know, like verbally abusive, then that's what you think love is. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah. And so like a lot of people are here getting with, a lot of women are getting with other men because they feel like home, but it's like home wasn't even a safe place.
How did you come to these realizations? When you, is this come from your family, from your background?
Yeah, from my own personal experience, and just it's a huge pattern in my clients that I notice. Yeah.
So the more you help people, the more you realize there's their common denominator. Have you noticed what's the underlying pattern in your previous relationships? What's that what are your traits that you like see with your previous relationships?
I've had 2 relationships that are the same that were toxic, and I've had 2 relationships that are the same that were healthy. Like they started off the same.
Okay.
They ended off the same. So I'll give you an example. I got into a healthy relationship when I was at a point in my life where I was like, I don't want to get hurt in the way that I did in the past. Like, how can I change that? Oh, I think that if I want a good guy, if I want a better person in my life, I'll also have to be that. Like, that means, Carly, you can't be giving out your number every time somebody asks you for it. Like, when you're going out, that means that you got to start taking care of yourself. That means that you got to start, like, creating a relationship with yourself. So
that's powerful.
I would start embodying all the traits that I wanted in another person. If I want somebody to be loyal, okay, I need to be loyal to myself. Okay, if I want somebody to have a good habits, good morning routine, I need to stick to that as well. if I want somebody to treat me with love and respect, I got to make sure I'm treating myself with love and respect. If I want somebody to spoil me and take me out on nice dates, like, I got to be taking myself out to the best places that I can afford.
Yeah.
And I got to treat myself. So I started practicing those ways. And from that space, I got into a relationship. And this relationship transformed my life. Everything got better. Every conversation, probably at least 80% of the time, was very meaningful. I always learned something.
Let me ask you this. So you had the first relationship. Was that toxic or healthy? Was that one?
It was more on the healthy side.
So that's one of the healthier sides. And then what was the next? What was
toxic.
the pattern? So it was like healthy, toxic, toxic, healthy?
Yes.
Is that really what it is? Healthy,
No,
toxic, toxic?
It was healthy, toxic, healthy, toxic.
Oh, you went back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So you went back to the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how did you okay, so why did the healthy is this the healthy relationship you're talking about right now?
Mm-hmm.
This is the one that changed you? Okay. Why did it end?
Location, like distance.
No, so I'm sorry. So the first one is what changed.
It was also
the basketball player.
It was also distance. Yeah.
So that was that
moving
distance you were telling
around.
me. Okay.
And so this other healthy one, it was also the same. He also played basketball, but in different countries.
Gotcha.
So it was just distance. It got too much, but it was more of like, it wasn't an ugly breakup.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very mutual thing. It was like when I saw him with the next person, all I could feel was, I'm so happy for him. But
then what was the going into the next relationship? So why did you go from healthy to toxic?
Okay.
And how old are you at this point? This is in California?
No. I was in Texas. 24, maybe.
What year is this? So 20. So it's 2020?
Yeah, 2020.
So you moved here, and the distance is what y'all broke up with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you moved to Dallas, and your first relationship in Dallas
it's toxic.
Got you. Go into that. I'm excited for you.
Okay, so
how did y'all meet?
We met in the middle of COVID in Cancun. Like, everything was closed. I was in Dallas, like, oh my God. Like, I want to get outside. I've been trapped in here.
Yeah.
I've been trapped in here. I know nobody. And I'm the type of person, like, if I don't go to a beach every 3 months, I go crazy.
Okay.
So I'm like, fuck it. I don't even care if nobody's in Mexico. I want to go to Cancun. It was my first time. Like, I don't care if nobody's at the hotel. I'll just go. So I ended up booking a trip. I go to Cancun, and I go to this wild resort. It's like a swingers resort. Had no idea at the time. I met him there. It was his birthday. He was like on the same boat of, I'm just going to go celebrate my birthday. Everything is closed down anyways. So we meet there, and mind you, I'm newly single for about like 2.5, 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And we're under the influence on a bunch of different things. So it just started off, you're drunk in love, other things all in love. And I just feel like a one-night stand turned into 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
So at first it was like,
it couldn't be bad at first if it goes 2 years.
I'm going to explain. So at first it was like, my mindset was, this is just going to be a little weekend fling. But he was extremely, like, interested in me. He was like, oh, my God, like, you're so wise. You're so smart. Like, you're going to be, like, the woman of my dreams. And you're such a wifey material type of woman. I've never met a woman like you. Said all these things to put me up on a pedestal, and that made me feel better about myself. And I always say, like, at this point in time, I attracted him from a place where I was coping because I wasn't over my ex. Yeah, we broke up and, like, no hard feelings and stuff. However, even though I did inner work, like, I meditated, I journaled, I prayed, I did all these things, I never specifically got down to the core and, like, grieve the relationship. I wasn't talking about I don't think I had a therapist at the time or anything like that. So I didn't talk about it. I didn't fully grieve it. It was just more like I was so antsy, and I'm like, oh my God, like I just want to go out and have fun, and like everything just opened up. Like, let me go resort back to what I know, which was drinking, popping mollies, and sleeping with guys. And so in the midst of that is when I met my recent ex.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that he was just like head over heels over me. And he was just getting out of his party phase, hooking up phase. And I was like, oh, like, I can help you. Like, I can help you. Like, I've been on this spiritual journey. Like, I can teach you what to do so that you don't have to live this unfulfilling life anymore. And so I started to do that. And it was like I was his teacher. And every day I remember I would just be like,
I'm sorry to cut you off. That's an unhealthy dynamic right there.
100%.
The woman should not be leading
100%. 100%. And every day it was like I could be cooking dinner and I'm just like talking up a storm on like the way that life works and putting him on game about like spiritual laws of the universe, how to grow, how to change your mindset, like how to connect to God, all these things. And so it kind of became this unhealthy like mother-son type of relationship. And deep down I knew that he wasn't the person for me.
Was he older or younger than you?
He was older than me.
By how much?
3 years, I think.
Okay.
But like on a maturity level he was a lot younger than me, you know? But at the time it was just more like I didn't want to leave because I didn't want to be alone. Because if I was alone,
was it COVID still time or?
It was, but I think like things opened up pretty quickly in
Dallas. No, things are open pretty quickly.
Yeah. So things were open, but what was I gonna say?
You're the unhealthy motherly son.
Yeah. So
and he was older than you, but you were more mature than him. And so that's where you left.
Okay, so I knew he wasn't the one for me, but I didn't want to face the fear of being alone because if I was alone, I would actually have to address that past hurt that I was still carrying from the other person. I couldn't put that into words at the time, of course, but it was just more like, oh, you know, like this is nice to have. I know it's just temporary, Carly, because you don't really see yourself with this person, but just kind of see how long you could keep faking it. Type of vibe. Like, see for how long. And I remember it would be nights where I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would stare at the ceiling and I couldn't fall asleep, and I would be right next to him and I'm just like, how? When? Like,
did you try to break it?
I would break up with him almost every day.
I got you.
And it became like
he just wouldn't listen.
No, it was more of like, this is where a toxic part of me would come out. So like I would break up with him every other day just to get him to like beg me to come back and like say how he's gonna change. And I would also bet on the potential, like, well, if he just does X, Y, and Z, if he was just more spiritual, if he was just like a little bit more sensitive, if he just changed this one thing about him, then maybe he could be the person. But it's like, no, people are who they are. But it was like I was living in this fantasy land with the blindfold on, thinking that it was something that it really wasn't. And it was because deep down I didn't feel good enough at the time to go for somebody I wanted because I was still grieving from a breakup. And how I wish the breakup would have ended was more of like, it was a mutual thing, but it was like, oh, like, am I not good enough?
The healthy one?
Yeah. I'm like, am I not good enough to continue or to like fight the battles with type of person? So I carried that with me. And that's why I attracted that type of relationship. Granted, there were good times, like we had laughs, he was all the things, but there was more of an unhealthy dynamic, like that mother-son type of thing. And I would always try to convince myself. I would be like, like, what's wrong with me? Like,
now you're questioning yourself
mm-hmm.
because you attracted this person, and now you're like, maybe like that's where the self-reflection slowly starts coming in, to where you're like, okay, maybe I'm the problem. Is that wrong or no?
Yes and no. Okay, so it was more of like, I started to think, what is wrong with me? Like, I have this amazing guy in front of me. He's attractive. He's tall. He looks good on paper. Like, he's starting this new business. He's in real estate. He's funny. He's outgoing. Every time I go out somewhere, like, people love him. Like, why don't I? What is it? Like, what is wrong with me? And I began to realize it's not about what a person is on the outside. It's who a person is on the inside. I knew what it was like to be with a man where I felt safe, where I could be completely myself, where if he said that he's going to wake up at 5 a.m. the next day, he does it. If he says he's going to, I don't know, do something at 3 p.m., he does it. Yes. So it's just like a man with a good character.
Have you ever read the book, The 4 Agreements?
Yeah.
Be impeccable with your word. Law number 1.
Yes. So I knew what it was like to be led to where, like, in the previous relationship, he could be like, Carly, put on this blindfold and follow me. I'm going to take you somewhere.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, where are we going? What are we doing? Like, I was just like, okay.
You can relax.
Yes.
You can be like, he's got me. He's the leader.
100%.
He wasn't the leader.
So in that relationship, it was like, couldn't trust anything he said.
Yeah.
It was like every single thing his actions said completely different. And so I always felt unsafe. I always felt like I can't trust this person. And it was, I mean, we're both mirroring each other. I didn't feel safe in my body. He didn't feel safe in his body. And so we're over here like trying to compensate for each other and love each other in spite of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, I think that I shut down my inner voice till I got really quiet, and I started to get more into the societal things of like, well, we could get married in a year and we could have children, and my dad loves him and loves watching football with him on the weekends. Like, maybe I could get myself to just choose this life.
You're negotiating with the devil.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Okay.
And what woke me up was, I remember like month and a half before we broke up, I start going through this awakening, like this new spiritual awakening, where I'm like, damn, like, I'm not being the person that I want to be. It wasn't just the relationship. It was every other area of my life too. I started like following a societal path. Like, I feel like I would like talk in certain ways that weren't really like me, that I feel like would be approved of.
Like what?
Like, let me think. I don't know, like, I feel, okay, so actually here's an example. So I use a lot of slang. I feel like I would stop using slang and be a lot more proper.
Okay.
To be accepted.
Okay.
I stopped listening to a lot of the music that I like to listen to, like West Coast music, because that's not really a thing here. I stopped getting my nails done for me. I stopped looking good for me. I started wearing like these fucking church girl outfits instead of the outfits that I would normally wear. It was just like I was trying to be somebody that I was not, because I felt like that's who I had to be.
Got you.
And my business was going to shit at the time.
I was just about to ask. What was business like?
It was total shit. I was lucky if I got a client a month.
Wow.
Yeah. So everything in my life was falling apart. Everything was a reflection of, I don't feel good enough. Yeah. I was the heaviest I had ever been in my life. And I've been doing fitness for over 10 years. And so I had realized that, and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm not being me. So I was like, who would Carly be if she didn't have a boyfriend, if she didn't have to cook at this same time every day, if she didn't have clients to tend to, if she didn't go to the gym at 8 a.m. every day? Like, who would Carly be outside of these things if she did absolutely nothing but just sat here? And so I sat, for days in the dark. I fasted. I said, I'm not talking to anybody for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, I sat in my room and I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried, and I journaled. And after about a week, I got up, I started playing music, I started dancing, I started singing, I started vibing, I started feeling myself, I start being who I am. And in the span of those 2 weeks, like, the old me died. The old me that was tired of living that life that was a complete facade, that I thought was like the perfect life. Like, so many people would be like, you guys are just like the best looking couple and all these things, and I would get all of those thoughts in my head and be like, oh, okay, well, if everybody else thinks this about us, like, maybe we can make it work. So I had to just really come to terms that I was not living a life that was true to me and that I was not happy about. And once I did, I was able to start creating my new self.
And what was you broke up with him?
Okay, so after that, right, I'm like in this clear space, I'm happy, and I tell him, I'm like, you know what, I've been a bitch to you.
You're like, it's not me, it's you.
I'm like, or
it's not you, it's me.
Like, I've been a bitch to you. Like, I've torn you down. I've told you you're not good enough. I've done so many things but support you.
Did you say the meanest things ever to this particular relationship, in this relationship? Like, because there's relationships where, said the meanest things to him. Is this that relationship compared to all the other ones?
Probably. I think maybe I had a worse one.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, this was bad where, like, you know, drunk nights yelling at each other. That's never a good feeling. And so I'm telling him I want this, and he starts breaking down crying, like, after I'm being very positive. Like, I'm like saying a lot of things to support him, like uplift him, and he's just like who is this new Carly? Like, what the hell? And we're on the phone one day, he starts crying, and he's like, I gotta tell you something. And I'm like, huh? And so he's like, I'm coming over right now. So he comes over to my place, and I'm thinking it's like, oh, maybe he like realized something too, like me, like maybe he just woke up like me, maybe that's what he's coming to tell me. And he sits down, I'm on the bed, and he's like, I cheated on you. And I'm like, you cheat on me? But like, you put me up on this high pedestal, like as if you can't get anybody better than me. How do you cheat on me? And I'm like, when, where? And a month prior to that, the weekend of my birthday, his grandma died. His mom had passed away, his dad passed away, all he had was his grandma. And we had a trip to Mexico booked. All my friends were coming, and I'm like, everything is non-refundable, like, I can't go with you, obviously you can't come with me, so like, we'll just go our separate ways, whatever. So he goes to the funeral, and he ends up having sex with a family friend. And it was the only time that we were apart, which was when I was in Mexico for my birthday. And I remember, like, I'm like, what the fuck? First, denial comes all over my body, and then it's like rage, and I just like, I start punching my wall, and I'm like, what the fuck, God? Like, and I'm crying, and I'm like, the rage and anger is coming from so many places of, like, one, the realization that I don't own anybody. You could be in a relationship for 20 years, but you still don't own that person. You may have a stronger attachment to that person, but you don't own them. 2, I was mad that I wanted to be mad at him, but I couldn't, because I knew exactly what it's like to be at a very low place in your life and make terrible decisions from it. I was like, I'm mad that I can't even judge you because I know what it's like.
So this is how it ended.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all haven't smoked since?
We have.
But it was a clean breakup.
No, it's a little
No,
bit
okay.
messy.
Okay.
It was a little. This was like the breakup part 1, and then there's a breakup part 2.
Okay. So I want to go back to business. So how are you able to kind of, again, coach not only women but men? Is it the same process for men?
It's a little bit different. I haven't coached many men, but my most recent male client, there's not really a direction how it is in the program. I've just been doing him like one-on-one therapy type sessions, but it's been a very beautiful experience. Like, this man comes crying. Like,
Is he in a relationship?
no, he's dating.
Okay.
But he will talk about like his own toxic tendencies, and he knows that he has things that he needs to work on, but he will get really deep and really vulnerable and just break down. And it's very humbling to see a man like really take care of his mental that way, really take care of his heart, and be open and honest and drop all the walls down in front of a woman. So to me, it's been a really beautiful experience, like just getting to know more of like the masculine side of things, because I normally only work with women. And I know I'm never trying to teach a man how to be a man, because I don't know how to be a man, but I can definitely help men access their emotions and allow themselves to feel that, because a lot of the times men are always told, you know, you're a pussy, you're weak, you're this, you're that if you're crying, or like a simp.
Do you think men should be vulnerable in front of their woman, like their woman, like to the point where they're crying?
I mean, it doesn't have to be like that every time, but I think that it can be.
Because you're the keystone of the family. Would you look at your man the same if he's crying if something's going wrong? Or would you lose a little bit of respect? I would say if like he's crying because his mom passed away, that's different.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say.
But if it's like, hey, I lost my job, things aren't going right, I don't know what to do, and you start crying, bro, I don't know if that's like, I don't know. I wouldn't agree with that. I'd be like, get your shit together. Let's go do some man shit type shit. Like, I want your perspective. What do you think?
Yeah. So if a man, this example, right? If a man lost his job, he's down bad, he's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yes, I would be okay with him crying, as long as he's not dwelling in it. If he's like, 20 minutes and then it's like, okay, I'm going to get the fuck back up and I'm going to go kill this shit. Different. If he's just like a boo-hoo crybaby like a woman.
Yeah.
No.
Is there a lot of that? Do you see that on like a rise?
Men being like that?
Yeah. Or is it not? I don't know.
Crying literally, no,
not
really.
Crying, but like, woe is me. Like simps. Like, is there a lot? Like, what is your interaction with, like some clients or maybe like the women that you coach and the type of men they're attracting? Is that something that is common?
Simps?
Yeah.
Define a simp.
I don't want to say simp. It's more like not manly men. Like men that don't get up and work. Men that don't want to provide, don't want to lead, don't want to be, that want to be babied.
Yes. I have some clients and some friends who deal with men that still live with their parents.
Okay.
I don't think that's very masculine. I don't think that's somebody living up to their potential. I don't think that that's somebody that is really pushing themselves in a very big way. It's people who are more reliant on the support versus doing it themselves. Granted, yes, it's great to get support from family, but if you're like 30 years old and still doing it, it's like, come on.
Okay, so living with your parents, that's a like non-manly thing.
Yeah.
What are like some other traits?
Not keeping their word.
Okay, character.
Yeah, character is a huge thing. I think that it's very important that, in my perspective, like a high quality man to me has a great character, has self-discipline, and he's going after what the fuck he wants.
Okay. What about the flip side? So let me ask kind of like shorter questions for shorter responses. What's like the biggest problem women make in relationships today?
Going after men just because a man wants to pursue them. So a lot of women with a low self-esteem, they love attention. So they will jump at anybody that gives them attention, whether or not they are good for them. So as long as a person chooses them, which is the reason that women do this is because growing up we see Cinderella, where Prince Charming chooses Cinderella out of the stepsisters, where a man chooses a woman out of all the women in the room, and so that makes her feel special. But what if that man isn't even really a good man? But a lot of women try to shapeshift themselves and force themselves or convince themselves, like I did, to try to like somebody just because he's giving her a lot of attention or interest. And so just because a man chooses them, they think that they automatically just need to run with it. And then they get into these toxic relationships where it's like, we're not even compatible, but I didn't even really choose you in the beginning. I didn't even really know you.
What's the biggest mistake that men make in relationships?
I don't really know.
Okay.
I think you could tell me.
Me?
What do you think?
In my opinion, I think men don't serve God. So they serve, if you're not serving God, you're going to serve something else, and that just destroys the whole relationship. So if you're not aligned with
What would be an example of like something else they would serve or somebody else they would serve?
food, porn, work,
Yeah.
social media, attention, going out, football, fantasy football, like anything, betting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of examples. There's a lot of distractions. So,
Agreed.
What's next for the Magnetic Queen and her future with helping people?
So my next move is hosting a retreat. I really am planning on hosting a retreat in Tulum. Will be my first retreat, where I'll have about 10 to 15 women and take them on 4 days of just a lot of healing, transformations, doing a lot of inner work, and helping them become the best version of themselves.
Sounds like 4 days of just everyone crying.
Crying / having fun. I always gotta have both.
Yeah. No. One thing I'm taking away is that obviously women are the more emotional creature, but a lot of your healing process have involved meditation and crying, which I mean is it makes sense, right? I feel like it can go both ways. Even men can go through that, right? It's a lot of, but it's with more men. I feel like you got to keep that shit to yourself. Like you can go cry in the dark, but don't let like people know about it, because you got to like still put on that I don't want to say it's a facade. You still have to be a leader, so you can't let people see you weak. What do you think?
Agree to disagree. I think that maybe you don't want to portray that part of yourself often because you do want to be seen as a leader, but still allow yourself to feel what you feel and be fully authentic in front of people, no matter what they say or think about you.
I agree with that. I'm not saying do it often, but if you are going to do it in like private. Just like I feel like
or
you
with
did,
people
right?
you trust.
Yeah, with people you trust, yeah.
Yeah. But I would say that the reason that I did it alone too was just because I think that being in solitude is a very beautiful experience, because we're really able to tap into that part when we have all this noisiness and cloudiness and all of these people around us. It's hard to really access that deeper part of ourselves.
I agree. I think for the next episode, I would love to bring a guest with us, like a girl guest, and then I would love for you to do the because you at one point you said you manipulate women into becoming free, I think, or something.
Yeah, my marketing is like
your marketing
manipulation tactic, technically.
But I would love for you to show the world how you do that, and like maybe help some, a guest of ours find clarity.
Yeah, I would love that.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. Any final thoughts?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.